It's a harsh fact, but if you are not learning and growing and developing yourself, you are becoming increasingly less relevant. And that makes getting your next job all the more difficult. And in today's job market, it's even more difficult. But staying where you are does not mean staying stuck. My guest today is Kevin McDonnell. He's a co-host of the Copilot Connection podcast, a Microsoft MVP and Copilot lead consultant at Avanade. And he's going to show you how he has put in practice self-learning. And he's going to share with you a framework, he calls it a framework-ish, that you can use yourself in order to get inspiration, direction, and find something that you feel a bit passionate about to develop in work and in your spare time to help you grow. So if you find yourself a little bit stuck, maybe you'd like to learn something, but you don't quite know where to turn, this episode is for you. Kevin, we're talking today about learning, and particularly learning on the job, and more importantly, putting into practice what you learn and sharing what you learn, which is something which runs right to the core of what we're trying to do here at Build Your Edge, because once you put it into practice, you retain a lot more knowledge. And you're someone who's built a career, not out of just sort of constant development and learning, but also sharing massively what you learn. Tell us a bit more about that. Why do you do that, and how has it worked out for you?
Well, I think for me, I've always learned through doing. I was one of those people who kind of bought up all those tech books, but I struggled reading them. You know, there was too much to take on and things like that. So I love to kind of crack open the laptop, build out things there. Yes, I kind of came from the dev world and building out content, but actually doing things helped me learn. And I also learned by snippets from other people. You know, I was lucky enough to grow up in that age of YouTube just starting to appear on there, people creating blogs and content like that. And I loved this. So I thought, well, I should do the same, really. It's kind of the pay it back view to it as well. So as I was doing things, I'd write them up and start putting them on blog posts. I start writing notes and things. It's probably fair to say initially I was a bit nervous. No one cares about what I'm saying. But I'd write it down as if they did. And then I'd start publishing it and telling a few people about it, posting it onto social media. And it just kind of grew and grew from there. And you also realize that those other people who are publishing, you kind of see these big influential names in different tech worlds, those who kind of sit within that space. These can feel like big names. They're exactly the same. They're
Yeah.
just posting what they've been doing, and they've gradually refined that art over time as to what works, what doesn't work, what's too long, what's too short, what gets to the point, what actually helps people. And I love the fact that I've done it, and I've spoken to so many other people that have discovered something through their learning, posted about it, and then forgotten. And when they've gone to Google or Bing to find about it, they've come up with their own blog post that has actually answered the question again. And to me, that's that point of learning. It's for you and for other people would have stumbled across that can help answer those questions.
And you put there at the beginning, and I'm paraphrasing, but you didn't feel confident enough. Like, what do I know that somebody else will be interested in? But actually, as you also said, everybody who starts out is exactly the same. And it's a theme that's run through a couple of guests already, which is this, I've picked up this phrase, practice in public, which means just go do it and see what happens. How did you get over your initial nerves and apprehensiveness and feeling of, not good enough?
You never really get over that. You never kind of conquer that feeling that there's always someone who feels better, and there's always times where what you do, you see someone else, coming back to that coding world, you'll see someone else write a bit of code and they'll do it in a third of the time you did, or you'll see someone who's able to rattle off these bits of knowledge from all the different areas and things like that. So I think not comparing myself with other people and just doing what I feel comfortable with, and
Yeah.
trying to hold in my brain those people I chat to who've loved what I've been able to put out there. It's not everyone. Not everyone
Mm.
wants in the way. You mentioned the beginning, the intro, co-host the Copilot Connection podcast. I love this podcast format because in many places I can just ramble and talk around the subject. Thankfully, there's great podcast hosts like you who kind of cut it down and put the quality out there as well. So finding out what works for you and then finding an audience that likes it just kind of takes away that view. Again,
Yeah.
not everyone is going to be exactly there, want everything you do, but there will be a good chunk of people who are.
Exactly. You'll find your audience, won't you? And yeah, we've touched on a couple of technology resources. You mentioned blogs and videos and Stack
Mm.
Overflow. Now, of course, we've got AI, and I'm wondering if you think AI is going to change this, because we tend just to go to ChatGPT or something and say, "Here's a question, give me an answer," and it gives you some content which you then trust and use.
Oh, please tell me you don't.
We all do, Kevin. We all do.
To me, using ChatGPT, Copilot, Claude, and other things like that is getting that first little tidbit of, right, I've got an idea where I need to dig into things on this. I still look back to a history teacher who said, you should always criticize everything. You should look at what are the positives that are out of it, what are the negatives, what do I feel I trust? Can I get some other sources of evidence from there? So never just look at those results that come from that. Go and dig into those articles and see, do you trust them? And getting into that detail is really important from there.
Yeah. Let's spin the conversation now to the learner. So we said at the top that, particularly with the job market as it is right now, a lot of people, where once upon a time they would have thought, okay, I need to do something new, I'm going to move my job. And it was a relatively simple thing. But now people are getting stuck.
Yeah.
So if you're one of those people that's a bit stuck, what's the importance of learning on the job and developing your skills within your current framework?
It's vital to know what you want to do, where you want to come from there. A good friend gave me a book of "Don't be who you are, be who you want to be," and kind of looking ahead, looking at that vision of who you want to be. It could be based on a single person, it could be based on different people, it could be based on just your imagination. Think about that role and kind of base on that, and then understand what it is they do, what that role looks like. Is it technical skills you need to learn? But it's also, what are the softer skills around that? Do you need to be able to analyze things? Do you need to be able to stand up and present in front of people? Do you need to have those skills of persuasion? So looking at all those different things and being honest with yourself about what you do and what you don't do within there. What can you learn? What can't you learn? You can demonstrate real success for that. In the creative world, I love the advertisers who've built their own advertisements for products they're not working on, who've built out visions for designs of things that they don't build. The theoretical builds of the next iPhone, the next Androids, of what they think it could look like, and put those out there. That act of building that act of understanding all those different elements, pulling together those different bits, helps you learn, helps you gain experience. And then coming back to the early topic, share that with people, share those designs, share those visions. Don't just share the end outcome. Talk about how you got there as well. Because again, people will feedback on that. You learn from that, going through that journey, going all the way back to people who've done GCSE and schoolwork. If you think of maths, showing your working was part of it. That's exactly the same with this sort of content as well. Show how you've got to that outcome as well. So
Mm.
that act of putting it down on paper helps you think too.
I find it very refreshing when people expose what didn't work. There's a couple of designers I follow, they're logo designers, and they show the process and you
Mm,
see the final image, but they go
yeah.
through the days and the iterations and the variations that they do before they even get to the point where they say, right, here's 6 things for the customer to pick from. And I would imagine that a lot of people watching or listening will know that they've got some things they need to learn. They'll know that there's all these facilities available, but maybe they just don't do it. What do you think's behind that? Why don't people dive in and say, "Yep, I'm going to learn something"? Is it fear? Is it lack of direction? What is it?
I mean, all of the above. I've certainly been there. It's that fear of being shot down. You know, we do live in an era where you put yourself out on social media. There will always be people who want to attack you, whether valid or not. So the fear of those things, the fear of um, kind of putting yourself out there, especially if this is something you're passionate about, if this is a world that you care about and you're putting that out there and you're just being shot down, you know, you're kind of building yourself up and you feel there's further to fall. If you just hold back and kind of continue in the way, you move away from that fear as well. So
Yeah.
making sure you're honest with yourself about those things and making sure you think of ways uh, to kind of protect yourself from that almost. That could be you turn off comments or you only look at comments in particular times. Whatever you do, don't start to look at those comments just before you're going to sleep because that sleep's going to be a lot harder to come by. I've certainly made that mistake myself on there. I think there's also a certain amount of can I do it? Can I actually do these things from there as well? I think it is so hard, but so important to try and be as honest with yourself on these things as well, and
True.
set small goals. So at least I'm going to be careful saying this. It maybe you can't do it. Maybe this isn't something you want to do. I'd love, the thought of being a doctor or something like that. I know I couldn't think of anything worse than cutting open a human body and things
Oh,
on there.
yeah.
That is something
Needles.
I realize I
Yeah.
can't do. I'd love the idea of helping people that way. So there will be things you realize. So work out as you're going along, set those small goals, set those small steps going towards it and see how you're doing with that and adapt to that world.
Yeah. And you touched earlier on learning budgets, and this is a bit of a pet peeve of mine. If you manage people, they come to you and they say, "I want to grow, I want to learn," and you say, "Well, there's £2,000 or dollars or whatever it is sat there on a learning budget. Go use it." And then I think there are two different types of people, and I'm being very broad here, but there's a bunch of people who just don't use it and then moan that they're not
Yeah.
growing. And there's another bunch of people who rinse it and they go
Yeah.
on any course they can. They get to travel the budget and they spend their money, but it's not really something which helps them. What's the secret? What should somebody do to get the most out of their budget without wasting it?
So I think finding ways that help you learn. And what I mean by that is help you learn. What are the ways you take things in? You touched on the idea of courses. I honestly cannot think of many worse things than sitting in a course for 3 days when maybe
Yeah,
2 hours of it is particularly useful and I could have gone at my own pace. I'm not very good at going the pace of someone who's dictating that. I want to be able to jump ahead. I want to be able to ask questions and jump around, which is why I love that learning through doing, following self-paced courses, trying things out myself, setting out goals to build things and uh, often failing, not getting and going, actually, this is too hard from there.
yeah,
So working out where you can get from that. My favorite way of learning is going to a conference because I can go and listen to different sessions. I can listen to what different people say, but I can also chat to people as well, whether it's the speakers, whether it's other people learning, even the vendors. Go and speak to not just about their product, but about the kind of world that they're in within that. You get to hear so much, and I come away very energized from going to conferences because it's kind of inspired different ways of thinking about it, things I hadn't thought about before as well. And that should come as part of your learning budget too. So
yeah.
picking up different ways of doing that learning and finding what works for you, I think is really important too.
And I think it's ever more important in these days post lockdown. We're still in a bit of a semi lockdown where people aren't collecting together perhaps as much as they used to. But like you say, getting into a room with great speakers, with other people who are there attending, talking to other vendors, it's super interesting. What's the impact on someone? So we've talked about somebody who maybe isn't growing and they know they need to grow. If
Mm.
they step in and start to do some self learning and they start to share, what's the impact on them? What do they feel? What do they get out of it?
two things. You'll feel you're stretching, and uh, for a while, you'll be shouting into the void. You'll be putting content out there, you'll be sharing it, and there may be one bloke who replies every now and
Yeah.
then. But then you'll get that one person going, "Thank you. I've been trying to
Yeah.
solve this for ages, and you've just given me the trigger towards get to that." I can remember one of the early blog posts I did on that, or yeah, one of my other favorite blog posts where I got some from Microsoft's going, "You've caused a bit of a panic with the product group around this one." And it was a good panic because they realized something was wrong within there. But you suddenly go, "Oh, I've made an impact. I've
Yeah.
helped people from that," and you get that kind of rosy feeling on there because what you want is that warm feeling, that benefit that you've helped people from there, and it gets kind of addictive. You start to want to get more of that. You start sharing more. You start picking up other ideas from there, and you start getting known for a subject, and that kind of takes you down that route. It may be that that was your goal. That's exactly what you were hoping to learn and be, whether it's kind of maybe moving from a support role into more of a developer or architect or area with that. Maybe you're moving into marketing and you're creating content there, but you're starting to build towards that world. And it's a certain element of that fake it until you make it. Start
Mm.
acting as if you're the expert in this area, and people start to see that, start to recognize you as there. You work on something that people see. People see you as more of an expert in that. I
Mm.
love
And
a guy.
I know this is not about me, but I would like to share one story which I think drives straight into what you're talking about. Back in 2009, I'd been made redundant, and I was like, "What shall I do?" And I picked up an open source PHP framework, mostly to teach myself how to code and how to build things. And I was contributing to the help forum. People would say, "How do I do this?" And I'd say, "Well, you try that," and provide some answers. I remember it still, 3rd of January 2009, my phone rang, and it was from America. And this company picked up the phone and spoke to me, and they said, "You seem to know what you're talking about." And it was an American TV company, a very big, famous show at the time. They said, "We've got an e-commerce site, and we've had 2 big companies working on it, and they've failed. We launch in a week. Can you get it working?" I went, "Yeah, of course I can," like you do. But I got a year's worth of work out of that. Just
Yeah.
exactly as you described, which is, you know, looking like, I mean, I guess I did know what I was doing, but actually showing that I knew what I was doing and putting it out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember Gary Trinder. So he was my co-host on a former podcast I did. Used to work with him, and he did a lot of open source stuff. And he got chatting with the person doing this, got more involved, became one of the co-contributor, not words, the kind of owners of the repository, and they started managing things. So he went from kind of contributing to it to helping look at other contributions. And ultimately, it kind of led him to getting a role within Microsoft. He ended up sort of moving over to that developer relations world. And now basically his job is doing that. It is
Yeah.
kind of building up cool code that other people can see. And I love seeing how happy he is still from doing that. He's going to be listening to this and laughing, going, "Yeah, not today." But
Yeah.
generally, he's seeing the joy, and he has changed what he's been doing. It's exactly what he wants,
Mm.
and he's kind of pulled together almost what he was doing for a hobby, and now it's his role, it's his job
It's paying
within there.
paying the
And
wages. Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
So this sounds like it could be a lot of work, right? I'm already at my job. Maybe I'm putting some of this into my work, but then also I'm spending time in the evenings or the mornings or the weekend. How do you build up good habits so that actually you don't just sort of start something and drop it, but you actually keep going and you get the real value out of it? How do you build this sort of habit into your lifestyle?
I don't know if I'm the right person to answer that with a number of kind of side projects that kind of half done have died away
Okay.
from there. So don't feel afraid of that. If I would say one of the habits is to set a goal and actively put them to one side. Feel free to put them on hiatus. Write up a few notes where you've gone from that and say, right, I'm not feeling that at the moment. It may be it's not the right time from what's happening outside of you. Maybe you're not in the right space to finish off. Go, yeah, that's fine with me. So I think it comes back to that idea earlier of setting goals and kind of working towards those things step by step. within there. Think about what you want to achieve. Be prepared to start something just because you find it's a bit fun, and
Yeah.
stop it. It's
Yeah.
that fail fast mentality, and uh, share it with other people. If it's something you're so passionate about, they're so excited about, and everyone goes, yeah, 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 I guess that could kind of work. Maybe that's not going to be the right thing
Yeah.
within there. Don't kill it off. It may come back again. As a couple of things I'm going to reactivate in this world of generative AI that probably first started on about 10 years ago, and suddenly the technologies kept caught up, and the kind of mood has changed within. It's worthwhile looking at again within there. So don't let those things go. Um, let your to a certain degree, let your passions flow with it. So when you're feeling it, make the most, invest that time, do those later nights and things like that. Don't literally kill yourself over it. Don't literally stretch yourself too far. Have those. There's some great content out there. Agnes Molnar, I think I'm going to put this in the digital handout about thinking about burnout and things like that. So work out. Set some barriers. Set some things where you notice I've gone too far. This is too much within there. But
Mm.
surface
Yeah,
that
but
passion.
I
Feel
know
that
that feeling
passion where it
of
is.
yeah, that feeling of passion, and you get consumed by it and you just want to keep doing it. It's a great
Yeah.
feeling, isn't it? So
Yeah. Absolutely.
every guest on this show leaves behind something that the audience can download, and it's relevant to what we're talking about, and then they can put it into action afterwards. It comes back to exactly what we're talking about, right? Learning something and putting it into action. Now, you've brought along with you a framework that's
Yeah.
got four big chunks.
Framework-ish.
Framework-ish, which, yeah, we
Yeah.
talked about this before. I'm not sure what a framework-ish is, but it's a framework-ish.
Yeah.
But it's got four areas to help people focus on this sense of self-learning, putting it into action, and then sharing it. So the first thing that you encourage people to do is side projects. Now, we've already touched on that a little bit, but perhaps you can elaborate. If I'm sitting here now listening or watching and thinking, yeah, okay, I'm going to do this. Tell me how to get started on a side project.
So to me, you got two options, and again, sorry to those non-technical people, I'm going to take that from a tech world. You could spin up your own open source project and start building it. Jeremy, you were talking about kind of learning Python and pieces there. Within that, you could go and do something on that. Another way is you could start working on a side project as well. So look at what someone else is doing that is open to contributions. GitHub is fantastic for that. There's always a contributor area within that that sort of tells you where you can get involved, and you can start building on that. So you could start on your own. You can start joining someone else's on there. Look at what other people are doing. One of my favorite people in the world, Donna Sarker, for anyone who's watched any of the Microsoft events like Ignite and Build, she's often there kind of hosting parts from it. And she has a lovely bar in Seattle called Side Hustle. And she
Okay.
also runs a fashion chain called Prima Donna. These are all her little side hustles, other things that she's felt inspired by and kind of gone ahead and turned into businesses within there as well. And I'm sure it might be saying this, some of them have more prevalence at a time and then they die back a little bit. They still kind of keep ticking over, and then she finds the passion again and they kind of come back up on there. Again, do that with you. So monitor the ones on there.
Yeah.
Why do this? And does it need to be as much as running your own fashion chain? One of my favorite stories is Samit Saini, who
Hmm.
used to work on the in Heathrow on the security. So whether you used to check the baggage going through, you have to take your belt off, take your shoes. One of the things they had there was obviously you get a lot of people who don't speak English. And they used to have a big A4 pads, all kind of laminated, and they used to rotate through them with the different versions in different languages and kind of flipping back and forth, trying to find the right one from there. And he was like, why isn't there a digital solution to this? We've got these kind of tablet devices. Surely there's a way. And I think he started looking at maybe a PowerPoint version of
Hmm.
that, but that was kind of clunky going through slides. And he's like, surely there's a way I can build an app. And so we started exploring. They had the Microsoft stack. So we looked at the low code Power Apps, and he taught himself Power Apps. He went online, looked at Microsoft Learn, watched a load of other people's videos, and he built that as an app, and then went to Heathrow and let, look what I've got. This, you're using devices. It's not going to cost you any more money within this. It's all within licenses. Can I start using this? And they were like, yeah.
Yeah, why not?
If you look up his LinkedIn, you'll see his photo is actually him with Satya Nadella, because his passion for learning that Power App, for making it happen and driving that adoption within Heathrow. He came on stage at, I think I was either Ignite or Build, and got to stand next to Satya Nadella and have his story spoken about there. And I've met him a few times. He's such a down-to-earth, lovely guy. And he has changed his career from working there on the security. He now works in the digital innovation team at Heathrow. So he has changed his career through actively building these apps in his own time, sharing that as he went along, and then moving that into a core role. So he's a great example in that.
What I picked up in that is quite a lot about motivation and having the ideas, the inspiration, if you like, for something to do. And you've crossed it in two ways. One is, don't try and get the inspiration for the project yourself, because often that's a blocker. Like, okay, I want to do a project, but what shall I do? I don't know, therefore I don't do it. So if you go to someone like GitHub and just pick up and get involved. And the second one, your lovely story, which I'm pleased you brought up about Sachin, is, he saw a problem right in front of him, and that became his purpose, his mission, and he went away and solved it. And the rest is history. Now, the second piece that you bring out is goal setting. Talk me through that. What do you mean by goal setting?
So I think something when I started, I just learned code for the sake of it. And I just write a load of code, and I didn't really have any direction. And that's probably where I had a lot of those kind of failed projects that didn't really get anywhere. So I stopped and sort of would tell myself, right, what am I trying to achieve here? And there would be times, so my go-to way of learning a bit of code was to build a tennis ladder. I remember at my old tennis club as a kid, there used to be a piece of paper stuck on the notice board, which if someone knocked down, then no one could remember where everyone was. And this was the days before phones, so you couldn't even take a quick photo of it from there. So someone else would write it down, and then that would get out of sync. So having a digital way of doing that. So I set myself the goal of, I don't need to build anything new here. I've built this, never actually used it anyway, but I just want to learn the language. So I'm going to rebuild this in language. Other times, like Summit, I've got a goal of, I want to create something for a reason. And so setting those little goals on there. Going back to sort of the idea of frameworks, my favorite one about that is OKRs, objective key results, where you set an objective, which is that goal you want to achieve. And you generally set 3 to 5 at the top level. And then you've got some key results, some measurements, which are one or more measurements which define success for that goal within that. So you can actually measure that success. And what's lovely is they can kind of cascade down. So your goal may be to learn a new language from within that, and your key results are, I've passed a course on it, or I've built my tennis app and all the tests pass within it, as in that one. But then my lower objective could be, I'm building the front end for that, or I'm building the back end, or I've built some documentation for it. You've got smaller goals that you can get to. So you've always got something achievable that you can focus on. Yes, you've got that long term, that big vision that you're looking at getting towards, but you're starting to see the steps towards getting there. And they may zigzag a bit, they may take along the way, but you're measuring success along that as you go along.
I love it. And of course, your objectives and your key results you talk about, you typically see them in big companies, but I love the way that you're saying, okay, it's a good framework, I'll use it. But it doesn't have to be heading towards any sort of material businessy goal, right? It's literally your ladder of self-improvement.
Absolutely. Yeah, it could be where you want to get to. So again, I've talked a lot about technical goals, but it could be presentations. It could be how you stand up and speak in front of people that you want to improve. So you could set goals around the number of presentations you do, the feedback you receive from that. It could be that you want to attend a lot of other people's. I know the way I've honed my presentation is by looking at other people that I like, their presentation skills. And I've kind of taken bits of people's, I've taken bits of others, I've gone, I love the way you speak. That's not me at all. I can't do
Hmm.
that, but I love that. And maybe I can steal this bit. There's a
Yeah.
lovely guy called Chris Huntingford, who's a very over enthusiastic South African from there. And his style's amazing. I could never get quite to that, but I've kind of taken bits of that and applied that to my own speaking. Lovely guy called Nuke Tati, who's very softly spoken, very calm, and just gets the very deep technical points from it. And I've kind of realized actually there's some really good times where you need to just slow it down a little bit and get into that kind of frame of putting things across. So learning from others and pulling that into your goals as well can be important.
And this brings us neatly on to the third section of your um, framework-ish, which is working out loud. And I know that we've spoken quite a bit already about blog posts and even speaking and sharing your work, but tell us a bit more about, again, if I'm going to do this, how do I work out loud?
So you can start from the simple. There's social media out there, whether you're using LinkedIn, Twitter, Blue Sky, Mastodon, there's plenty of ways out there that you can just say, I'm working on this at the moment. Gosh, this isn't hard. This is really winding me up. When I try and do this, this happens. And that kind of opens up the conversation within there that you can go on there. You can then kind of take that a bit further onto blog posts, onto YouTube, creating videos there, joining in and presenting at different events and user groups that happen with that. So starting to build it up bit by bit, and when there you could start your own podcast and kind of
Well, why
share
not
what you're
do that?
learning as you go along. And yeah, who'd do that crazy idea? It's nice and simple.
Yeah. Oh, it's so
But yeah,
simple.
but I think it's those things that once you try and even interviewing other people and having that back and forth conversation, even today, things you're saying as we've gone through this process, it's really made me think about this. And you were talking earlier about how do you feel nervous on this? I've been really nervous around this podcast because I go out, I talk about Microsoft technology, I talk about collaboration, building code, employee experience, but this was a bit different. It's a different audience. It's a different topic. This is something some people are going to sit here. I imagine some of you might be learning professionals going, what on earth is he
What
talking
is he
about?
talking about? Yeah.
That's not the professional way of doing it. We talk about it in this particular language and things like that.
Hmm.
And that's cool. I get that. I'm not an academic at these things within there. I'm not going to go through and get the very latest on that. This is my experience of what has helped me from there. And I hope people get things from this. Some people will
Mm.
see things and go, no, I disagree with that. Fantastic. Would love to hear from you. Would love to chat further. And this conversation of sharing that has helped me evolve the way I think about it as well.
Yeah, and people are different. I mean, I know people who learn by reading the book. They learn
Yeah.
they read it from cover to cover, and they've learnt it. Many
Yeah.
people just pile on in and have a go, which is I think close to what we're speaking about. There are many different ways of doing it, but the key thing is doing it, isn't it? The key thing is
Yeah.
progressing and saying, I want to improve in something, and actually changing yourself and moving forward.
Absolutely. And getting involved with it, doing
Yes.
something with it and working out why you're doing that, set that direction is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings us on to the fourth part of your framework-ish, which is called make use of what you can. What
Yeah.
does that mean?
So there's huge amounts out there on the internet and things like that. Make use of that, understand what's there. The slight problem is there is so much, so kind of finding the right thing can be a little bit hard on there. But if you're working at a company, you're going to have those learning resources don't downplay them. Make use of them. I remember I was doing a lot of frontline worker projects a few years ago, and speaking with a lot of people, we were trying to work out how can we get learning courses onto mobile devices. And I chatted with someone who said, don't bother. There is absolutely no
Mhm.
point. No one in the front line is going to spend their time learning when they're on the bus, going to Sainsbury's, going into their cleaning job, going into their manufacturing job. They were very, very wrong
Mhm.
on there. Yes, there's a lot of people who don't care about that, but there was a lot of people who wanted to learn. They didn't want to do their compliance training and dull things like that, but they want to learn, how can I evolve? How can I get better? What are the things that are available to me? And just putting the videos into that shorter term format meant they could consume them in those places. Or even like we were working with some retail stores where people weren't busy all the time. They would have quiet periods, and people were using that to catch up on the latest product launches and things like that. And actually, we saw the
Mhm.
numbers grow from that. It was fantastic. So people were taking advantage of that. So do find out what you've got out there. It may feel that there's lots of ancient stuff within it. It may feel there's lots of pointless bits, but find out from there that's already been paid for you that you can get the most of. Go on those courses. You know, you were talking earlier, Jeremy, about those budgets. Go and make use of those budgets. Challenge what's available. You may have, I'm sure I remember years ago, there literally used to be a paper catalogue of here's the courses you can do that got printed
Yeah.
out. You go and see the learning team and look through that. Gosh, I sound really old at this point. But, you know, go and look at that, but also find out what else might be out there that you could say, well, actually, none of these courses quite work, but I think this would be really useful. Could we try this? They might say no. That's fine, but go and ask those questions. So make sure you make use of all those different things, and then ask other people about it as well. This is, I've been doing a few things about mentoring a Microsoft MVP, which means I'm recognized by Microsoft for the sharing I do in the community. And one of the things we do is nominate other MVPs. So there's a few people I speak to about going, this is what you should do. And actually, that conversations, one of the most important thing I say is, go and speak to other MVPs, go and speak to other people who are sharing, go and speak to other people in that area you want to work with, because they'll happily chat. Those people are going out there speaking. They love the conversation. It is something that people are passionate in. So go and have those chat with those people, and that will help you learn as well. And then again, follow those people who you feel are learning and doing things in the way you think would help you as well.
So I think we've been through the framework-ish now, and it's available for people to download. The link will be in the comments below, but if
I'm
not, just go
actually
to
going to have to
Build Your
call it
Edge.
that, aren't I? I'm
You
going to
are
have to
definitely, I'm
rename
going to
that
call it the
to it.
framework-ish. That's the new name. But the people can come to the buildyouredge.org website. There's a podcast link there, and you can find your episode, and the download link will be there. So I want to wrap it up now and just sort of almost take it back to the beginning. We've spoken about a lot, and I just want to put myself in the shoes of somebody who's watching, who is listening and thinking, you know, I should do something. What's the very first thing that they should do?
Decide what and why. Why why is it you want to be that? Is it because you're bored of what you're doing? Is it because you want more money? Is it because you want more I was going to say power, but influence within your organization? What is it that you're looking to achieve? What is it? Is it because you want to do something you're more passionate about? You're fed up with this damn Excel spreadsheet you have to do every day. I know some of you are going, no, I want to do more Excel, but find out why it is you want to do it, and be truly honest with yourself. Go for that long walk. Maybe you're doing it now on a run or a walk and listening to this podcast, and just stop and think for a bit. Why is it that I don't want to be doing what I'm doing now? Or why is it that I want to take that next level and push myself a bit harder? And then think about, what is it? What does that look like? Is it a completely different job? Is it that I want to get a promotion to where I'm going now? Um, I, I don't think we kind of touched about it in learning, but understand what it is. The great thing, especially if you're working for a large organization, there should be a job framework about, you need to be good at these things. You need to understand this. You need to have these kind of softer skills there. Target those, understand and look around different ways you could go about getting those. Um, Another one I learned that I haven't touched on before. I'm a Cub Scout leader. My
Right.
goodness, I've learned a lot about leading people, kind of getting attention, gathering influence by teaching a load of 8 to 10-year-olds. It's insane. But if you can kind of keep them slightly corralled without losing your mind completely, something I do on a regular basis on a Wednesday, it teaches you a lot of things as well. So it doesn't have to be that conventional, this is my career, I need to do things on that. Look out the bounds and think about what is it you want to do? What are the different things I can do to get there? And who is it I can speak to help me get to that point as well? It's
Mm.
a
And
very nice who, what, why.
I think once you go into that conversation, the next stage becomes immediately apparent. And it's interesting. We could talk about this for ages, but career frameworks. I mean, I've written 3 or 4 of them. And what people don't realize is that when you are at level 3 and you want to get to level 4, there's clearly a gap, but you must display that you're operating at level 4
Absolutely.
before you can be promoted. You're not going to be promoted on hope and aspiration and maybe. You've got to step up and you've got to be a level 4. So if
Yeah.
you find that gap, start plugging it yourself now. Start doing all of those things and operate at level 4. And then when that time comes, you have a much, much better chance of being promoted to level 4.
I'll never forget the first time I thought I was going to be promoted, where it was coming out to promotion season, and I just waited, and the promotions came out, and I wasn't there, and I kind of said to
Yeah.
my boss, I was like, "How come I wasn't promoted?"
Why didn't
She
you
looked
come
at me
for
and was
me?
like,
Yeah.
"You didn't ask,"
Yeah.
and I was like, "I had to ask. I thought I just worked hard, and I got promoted."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was a real eye opener. And again, it comes to that you need to talk to people. You need to kind of understand what you need to be doing. You need to have that conversation. And no one
Yeah.
had really said that to me
Yeah. Yeah. I
from
go
there.
further. I
And
say you don't have to ask. I think you have to show. You have to make it really obvious that you're operating, and then the asking almost becomes irrelevant. But you cannot just sit back and expect.
but
That's
I
the
think you have to say, I want to be promoted. What
absolutely.
do I
Yeah. Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
do to get there? And then be able to
Yeah.
demonstrate those things
Yeah.
from there.
Yeah.
So I absolutely agree. You need to show it and you need to be doing those things
Yeah.
already. But I think if you haven't asked, if you haven't told someone, it comes to that working out loud, then you can kind of demonstrate that. And it's, to me, it's always felt horrible and formulaic, but it's one of those things you do have to go through
Yeah.
from there.
Yeah. I wrote a book. This is not about my self-publication, but I put in there that if you want to be promoted, you go to your manager and you tell them, I'm aiming to
Mm,
get promoted. And here's what I'm going to do. Here are the gaps I'm going to plug. And then you show that work in progress. Very much
yeah.
like you're saying, we're like working out loud and showing your progress. And then it becomes a really easy conversation and quite difficult for your manager to turn around and say, no,
Yeah.
you're putting yourself in a much, much better position.
Absolutely. And I think again, same with career change. If you want a different role, then talk about where okay, I'm going to backtrack on that slightly, but talk to people about where you want to be. That might not be your manager. It might be
Yeah.
you want to move to somewhere else completely.
Yeah.
Depending on your manager, have that conversation or don't, because you may
Completely.
find that they put you down from there. I do
Yeah.
remember a conversation with someone who wanted to go off and was it? He wanted to become a voiceover artist, and he was a project management office person at the time. And
Wow.
I,
That's quite
I,
a career
I
change.
managed not to laugh, and purely it wasn't mocking what he wanted to do. It was like, blimey, I did not see that coming at all
Yep.
from there. But I think he did speak to a few people about that, and he kind of almost got sidelined slightly. I don't think that's fair entirely to say that's what happened to him, but it kind of became obvious he didn't want to do what he wanted to do.
Mm.
Um, and as far as I know, I haven't get up. I haven't heard him on the TV at all, so I don't think it worked out as that as a goal, and it's a tricky one from there. So you do have to be a little bit careful. Yes, working out loud doesn't necessarily mean ignoring what you're doing right now. So you do need
Yeah.
to kind of keep diligent with what you do have. You do have to be delivering as well.
Cool.
So it's going to be a complex one to say, but a certain amount of it depends, and be a little bit cautious on that. But
Yeah.
you can work out loud in certain communities without upsetting your existing ones as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Kevin, thank you. You are clearly a sharer. So if there are people watching or listening who think, I'd quite like to just connect with Kevin and have a conversation about something, what's the best way they can reach out to you?
So I think hopefully my link to LinkedIn will be on here. But if you
Yep,
look
it
at
will.
Kevin McDonnell and then Microsoft, I don't work for Microsoft, but I talk about it so much it's the easiest way to find me. Otherwise, you get to this really rich property guy who's really depressing every time I find him instead. So
Got it.
I'd either check the links or Kevin McDonnell Microsoft. On most social media, I'm at Kev McDonk. It was my first ever username as a company I worked at, and it's kind of stuck since then.
Yeah,
So yeah,
cool.
hunt me down on those places.
Very
Always
good.
happy to
So
talk.
thank you so much, Kevin. Just coming on here and talking is you working out loud and sharing and encouraging other people to step out of their comfort zone a bit, go find something, stretch themselves. I love the idea of having personal OKRs. I've very rarely seen OKRs done well in any company, so good luck getting them right in your personal life. But I'm sure it's a brilliant way of measuring where you want to go, setting that sense of direction, and then tracking your progress towards it. Your framework-ish will be available to download. So I encourage anybody who's listening to this to download it and read it and put it into practice. That's what we're all about here on Build Your Edge. And of course, if you have listened to this and you think there's somebody else that maybe needs, I call it a kick up the career, show them the framework-ish too. Get them to listen to this and reach out to Kevin. So Kevin, thank you so much indeed for spending the time, not just here, but there's a lot of preparation goes into this as well. So thank you so much for being here.
Not a problem. Thank you for making this happen. It's great to see these podcasts take off, and I hope it helps people.
Fabulous. Thank you, Kevin.